I'm gonna go with that. That's our conspiracy of the day. We don't offer bullshit conspiracies about government or anything like that without sounding like an X-Files episode, because that's how we roll. But this is a conspiracy. They're trying to prevent us from doing this podcast live, and you are not going to stop us here live at the studio at That Nerd Channel. If it's not one thing, it's another. And I do think it's very interesting, when we talk about, when we talk about everybody using Zoom and different things that are going on, how many technical difficulties that people seem to have. And I swear, if we ever get this working smoothly, that's the day the world is going to end, officially. So, but we hope that everybody can see us live on Facebook. At this point, I'm not even for sure if that's actually happening, but we are pre-recording. So one way or another, we are going to, you're going to get to see us, and that's what's happening. All right, so we're going to get started here. Today's topic is we're going to be talking about how Hollywood how are they going to have to adjust after a pandemic? What is going on? I mean, the world of movies, TV shows, film, it's all changed now in the last 3 months. So how does a film industry, a billion-dollar film industry, change with movie theaters being shut down and stuff like that? But before we jump into that topic, we're going to do a couple of quick reviews of movies and a show on streaming services, because that's pretty much all we're getting these days. And then we're going to jump into this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. Alex, I wanted to start with you. You had a chance to watch the new movie 7500, which will be coming to Amazon on Friday, right?
Yes, sir.
I did not get a chance to watch our screener, and I'm very disappointed by that, but I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us about this film. Is it worth watching?
Well, I have to say that, going by the standards of how movies are made, it gets off to a quick start. It doesn't take long to get you introduced to all the principal characters, as you might expect nowadays. And at first I thought, well, it's kind of strange the way it's beginning out, but I think the idea was to, which is also a trend these days, is to give you authenticity. And so you're just jumping into a certain time and place for the people who happen to be involved. So it's like you've just kind of entered into the world at this time in this place, and they just drop you right into the story as though their lives have gone on. And so what you may or may not need to know ahead of time is not relevant, and they sort of get you caught up to speed. But I have to say that, despite the fact that we've been short on being able to see a lot of movies so far this year, this is a very strong entry for one of the top films of the year up to this point. I know it's only June right now, but...
And yet we've had like 5 films.
Well, Marcus and I went to a few movies to start out the year, and so far there hadn't really been any bad movies per se. Nothing necessarily fantastic, but so far the bottom line, everything had been pretty good. And there were a couple of movies that I saw that didn't even get around to being able to really get the reviews done because everything shut down. But I think this movie is going to be hopefully will be one that people will remember for a while, because it is still relatively early into the year. I often say that there's 2 types of movies when it comes down to it. You have big budget films that tend to rely on special effects and big name actors. And so it's not really relying on the characters, it's relying on the story, because you need the big explosions, which cost a lot of money, and you need the CGI effects, which cost a lot of money. This is a low-budget film, so as you would expect, it is a character-driven story. So when you tell somebody what this movie is about, it doesn't sound all that interesting, it doesn't sound all that original, but you have to be able to sit down and give it a chance and really get into the characters, which, because it gets you right into it to start out with, it doesn't take long to really focus on what's happening to these characters. The main character being played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, character known as Tobias Ellis. Interesting note, this was originally slated for Paul Dano to play, but because of delays in making the movie, he had a scheduling conflict, and so he had to drop out. So then they went over to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's had some good performances over the past 10 years or so as he's developed into an actor. We all remember who he was when he was a kid, and he wasn't a bad child actor either. If you go back to Angels in the Outfield, for instance, or even TV.
This movie itself, I mean, this is basically he's playing a pilot on a plane that gets hijacked. That's the premise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
And the title, if I'm correct, 7500 comes from it's a code word for distress or hijacking.
Yeah, they don't tell you exactly what it means in the movie, but it's basically a code. You know, they have things that they have to remember that's sort of in the handbook for when you're flying. He's a co-pilot to start out with, and then eventually take over as the pilot, which adds a little more drama to the situation, of course. But it's one of those things where it's like this is kind of a code that all these guys kind of know inside, sort of insider language, and that's supposed to be what it is, really. But it feels claustrophobic, which, you know, I tend to like movies like this because I'm somebody who doesn't necessarily like to feel tied down into a little space. And so it has that feel to it, especially for the main character. And his interaction with the terrorists, if you want to call them that, is really where the story begins to get interesting. And you have a reluctant terrorist, and they sort of develop a relationship as the story goes along. And so finding out what led to this young man getting in the position where he's in, that brought him to this interaction with the co-pilot, is really what makes the story interesting. Their chemistry on film, which you wouldn't necessarily expect, because Joseph Gordon-Levitt is somebody that we know well in this country, and I guess he's probably well known in other parts of the world. I don't think anybody really knows Omid Memar, at least not around here. I hope I'm saying his name correctly, as the character of Vedot, but he was exceptional in this role, I thought, and he held his own in a movie with a big name actor who is pretty well respected. So I think that's this young man. We'll see what happens to him in the future, but it was certainly a very credible performance.
Well, it sounds like it kind of goes into what we were talking about last week in regards to, you know, Amazon putting out a lot of quality when it comes to its films and its shows. But it sounds like from your description, this movie is going to be right up there with what Amazon does. So,
and this director has not done a feature-length film before. His name is Patrick Vollrath. He's a German filmmaker, and he has been noteworthy and acclaimed as a short film director. But since he's already well established in that world, I think that's going to bode well for getting the kind of attention maybe it deserves as a movie. And like I said, it was made on a very low budget. I think it was made on $6 million, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be relatively easy for them to recoup. You know, even in today's world, it should hopefully be easy for them to recoup what they did in making the movie. But this is an early candidate for Best Picture. It's hopefully going to be in the discussion, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think, should be in the early discussion for Best Actor. He hasn't really given a performance that's gotten that kind of acclaim, but I think it's time for him.
Okay, awesome. Well, looking forward to finally watching it. Like I said, I was personally disappointed that I didn't get a chance to, really watch the screener when we had it, and we only have so much time. So
I didn't realize how long Joseph Gordon-Levitt has been acting. Like, he's 3 years younger than me, almost 4 years younger than me, and he's been acting since 1988. Like, yeah. I'm really feel lazy right now. Like, he was on Family Ties and Murder, She Wrote, and Quantum Leap. He was on an episode of that. I mean, I'm shocked at how long he's been acting. Holy crap.
Yeah, he did TV for a lot of years, but it also should be noted, a little fun fact, that his actual first movie was directed by Robert Redford. He played the young Norman McLean in A River Runs Through It.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's just, like, I'm just shocked. like, holy cow, he's been acting for a very long time.
Well,
I just remember him from Angels in the Outfield and from Third Rock from the Sun. But
and that's what I was going with. That'll always be my favorite role of him, as the one who has to be the kid going through puberty. And I've recently started watching that show again on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, that show was so underrated. It was just so hilarious.
John Lithgow. I mean, just to see John Lithgow in a comedic role was fantastic. Just because you know him as the creepy guy, and just to see him just being so outlandishly funny was a treat.
Well, yeah. Anytime he does a comedic role, I mean, it's always going to be a treat. So, well, it looks like yes, 7500 is one to check out this Friday on Amazon Prime. The one thing that I wanted to mention that I got a chance to binge watch. I might have mentioned it last week, but I'm going to mention it again. Space Force with Steve Carell. If you are a fan of The Office, it is done by the same writers, but it's a 10, 30-minute episodes on Netflix. Steve Carell plays a 4-star general who is the head of Space Force. And every government, if you're a veteran, and every government joke you could come up with about government fucking it up and timetables and it's not what you think it's going to be, this show has it. And I think it's a pretty accurate picture of what Space Force would probably be under this administration.
Did they have a 3-hour mandatory PowerPoint training presentation that could be summed up in 30 seconds and wasted everybody's time?
Pretty much.
Because that would be accurate.
Yeah. But again, Steve Carell is hilarious. John Malkovich is playing the straight man scientist. Was a treat in this series as well. The group of actors they have, playing the 4-star generals on the Joint Chiefs, with Jane Lynch playing like the head of the Navy and making jokes about gender and stuff. And I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the actor's name. The original Tick and Putty on Seinfeld.
Patrick Warburton.
Thank you.
Yep.
He's also the I forget the character's name, but he's also the voice of the paraplegic cop neighbor in Family Guy.
Right. He plays the 4-star general, head of the Marines, who just wants to blow shit up. And so you've got a lot of great comedic talent in the series. And if you have not had a chance to watch it, I encourage people. It won't take you long. It'll take you about a day and a half to binge watch it. It's well worth it. And I got to say, it was in the trailer, but to see the full scene of them watching a rocket launch and kind of dancing to, Bahama, the Beach Boys song, or Kokomo. I'm sorry, the Kokomo song by the Beach Boys. I'm like, that's probably about accurate for the military. So anyway, very delightful. If you're a fan of The Office, again, you need to go and watch this. Now, obviously, it won't be as good because you don't have Jim and Dwight. But and for you anime or K-pop fans out there, to be able to make K-pop jokes with everything is, again, it's a delightful treat on Netflix. So, all right, enough reviews. This week's Sign of the Apocalypse. So last week, we talked about news that has come out over the last few weeks. The new streaming service, HBO Max, announced that next year they will be releasing the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League movie, adding fuel to the fire about, Warner Brothers and DC just can't make good movies. Well, somebody else decided to jump on that bandwagon of releasing a new cut of a movie that was under controversy. And yes, I swear to God, this is a real thing. And it's just going to make everybody pissed off more about Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and everybody else. But it looks like Disney Plus has started to pledge that by 2023, they will have what they are referring to as the J.J. Abrams 4-hour cut of The Rise of Skywalker. So for all you pissed off fans out there, you will get a new cut that you can argue about in the next few years. And the reason they're waiting to 2023 is because
'Cause it's a year they don't have anything coming out, probably.
No, that wasn't it. Because I've got something coming out every year now. It was
Yeah.
when Kathleen Kennedy's contract was up and she couldn't nix anything.
Oh, I thought that was up in 2021. Anyway, all right.
Well,
But
they're definitely doing it after her
Yeah.
her next contract is up, and because she made a lot of decisions about what scenes were going into the Rise of Skywalker, and she has pretty much become the evil empire of Lucasfilm at this point. So
I feel like I'm like, when it comes to these movies and these cuts, I feel like I'm riding a pendulum and there's no stopping it. The pendulum's just going faster and farther, and we're just going to swing all the way around eventually.
Yeah.
Because we were like, this movie felt rushed. It could have used a little bit more depth to it. Maybe, maybe a 3-hour movie, maybe, but then they go, screw it. Let's do 4 hours. I mean, what's next? Are we going to be sitting through the next Star Wars Dr. Zhivago 5-hour movie marathon? Are we gonna have to put in like 3 intermissions just so people could take a piss and get another beer?
Here's the thing: since everything is going in the direction of streaming, if this is going to be a 4-hour movie, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't just break it down into 4 episodes. I can totally see that.
Yeah,
but it also should be noted that this isn't the first time that we've had this. It's not within the streaming culture that we've done this. There's always a Ridley Scott director's cut that's longer than any.
Oh God, how many cuts of Blade Runner are they up to now? Like 7?
Right. And if you want to watch Blade Runner on Netflix, it's the final cut. It's Ridley's version of it. Kingdom of Heaven, there's a 4-hour director's cut, which is actually better, makes the movie, makes much more sense of the movie. But in the mid 70s, actually, I think it was about the time Brendan and I were born, about 78. They did the made-for-TV movie version of the first Godfather movie, a 4-hour version with added scenes and stuff. Actually, I'm sorry, not the original Godfather. Godfather Part 2. They made a 4-hour version and changed the timeline. They made it linear, where they took all the back scenes of showing Vito Corleone and his rise, and then got into the movie. And it was this 4-hour miniseries event. So it's not like that we haven't seen this before, but again,
it's like, well, we've gone away from miniseries as a culture for like 30 years. So like the miniseries kind of fell out of favor in the early 90s, and we haven't really seen them like since cable was really in everybody's house. The big networks stopped doing miniseries, and we didn't see them for the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. So, it would be interesting if streaming service brought that back.
Well, they do in a way. And this is going to lead into our conversation. We're going to start it right here after this week's Out of the Apocalypse. Star Wars fans, you get more stuff to argue about in the next few years. Congratulations. Thank you, Disney. But anyway, Netflix, Apple, Amazon, they're starting to do these what they call limited events. It's basically their version of a miniseries. A good example, there was one on Netflix, and I watched it, called Unbelievable. And it was actually based off a true case about a serial rapist who did it from state to state. And police departments figured out, or they couldn't catch the guy because there was no communication between police departments. There wasn't an MO they could put together until a group of cops in Colorado finally did. And then there were victims who were not believed and got in trouble for making false accusations and all that. It was really good. I mean, it's gut-wrenching to watch, but Toni Collette is fantastic. Texas' own Dale Dickey, who is also on the board of the USA Film Festival. I love chatting with her every time she's here. She was great in it. But you're starting to see more and more like this, where they're not going to continue the story. It's one and done. We have a very clear beginning, we have a very clear end, and we're not going to try to capitalize on it and stuff. But to your point, Brendan, remember the miniseries events that we got in the 80s growing up when we didn't have streaming services? We had, I think Roots was the first iconic miniseries that defined a generation. It also made that was LeVar Burton's first like major role before Star Trek.
Wasn't didn't they like do like mini series for shows that had been canceled but people wanted more of them? Like I think Dallas got a mini series at one point, and
It was a way to wrap up storylines.
Yeah.
But before you had Game of Thrones, where you couldn't turn it into a movie, you had to actually have a 10-episode season for a book. They started doing that years ago. I remember War and Remembrance. Herman Wouk's 2 books. They did 2 great miniseries back in the 80s based on those books. And that was the only way to tell it. And they were iconic and gut-wrenching because it was the first time on film, I remember, that they showed Jews in gas chambers and even had the controversy of showing a little nudity and all that. And they wanted people to know how emotional it was and stuff like that. I think Jane Seymour even won an Emmy because she played in the sequel, War and Remembrance. War and Remembrance is the sequel. Winds of War is the first one. But anyway, she won an Emmy as playing the Jewish wife of the Navy lieutenant who survived a concentration camp. But we don't have these things anymore. And I think that's another way that, Hollywood can adapt, because I'm not saying you put them on mainstream TV anymore, but there should be bigger events for, here is a miniseries. Here is something we're going to do. I know they tried to redo Roots of Wild like a couple of years ago, and it was like, oh, okay.
They did a Dune miniseries a couple of years back, like maybe 15 years ago on Sci-Fi.
Right. Some people consider that a little bit better than, the movie, because they were actually going to tell more of the story. And I think the Sci-Fi Channel is really the only one that's ever kind of continued the idea of miniseries. So, but like I said, to your point, it is interesting to think about how we do stuff like that, where we're not trying to do 5 or 6, seasons of just one small story. We were trying to do it. Or British TV, where 8 great episodes will tell an entire story and everything is great, like Broadchurch, which I actually just recently binge watched.
I've been saying this for years. I think American television, and to a certain extent, streaming TV has, because you usually get 10 to 13 episodes, should really adapt the British model. Because even if you just broke each season up into 2 different seasons, you'd have less filler,
Right.
And because you do 23 episodes of the same season. I mean, how many episodes of Arrow and Flash were like, well, this is trash, we don't need to watch, it's got nothing to do with the overarching story. It's like, we're hunting down Ra's al Ghul. Okay, great. Let's go play with Felicity's computers for an episode. Like, what? Like, why are we doing this?
Think about Smallville. 10 seasons of 20-some-odd episodes, and if you go back and binge watch and get rid of all the, what I like to call, bullshit Dawson Creek episodes that have nothing to do with the overall storyline, it's really just 5 seasons. Half of it's really good, and half of it's just throwaway nonsense. So,
just wrote some bullshit on some pages because we're getting paid to do it.
Although that one episode in season 4 where Chloe, Lana, and Lois all get possessed by witches and take advantage of Clark in the barn, we do know now that was an official recruitment video for Nexum with Allison.
I knew you were going there, because I was like, I have a hard time even watching that show knowing that, here's this little cute little blonde, and 5 years later she'd be recruiting women to get branded into a sex cult.
Right, which just makes all the fantasies I had about Chloe Sullivan weird now. But
Marcus, they were weird before, but they're just weirder now.
True, touche. All right, so here we are. I made this comment. It's been actually over 3 months now since we did our last press screening. In fact, the last one that we did was for the Ben Affleck basketball movie, which I'm drawing a blank on now, and I can't believe
The Hard Road, the Long Road, Hard Road, Long Road. Was it the Hard Road?
I could tell it was a very memorable experience for both of you.
was,
Um,
yeah.
right.
The way
Anyway,
back.
it was the way back. That's what it was. But it just feels weird not catching a couple of screenings every week now, or big movies coming up. I mean, I think this is the first time since we've been an outlet that we are not covering summer blockbuster movies, and it's the first time that I can remember where, again, I mean, we've never had this experience where an entire summer slate of movies have been shut down, and we're not going to get to enjoy summer popcorn movies. They're trying to release stuff on demand. You can, see a movie for $20 if you want. But all of the big name movies that we were going to cover this year, Black Widow, Wonder Woman, Top Gun 2, everything was pushed back. And they even just announced this week that Wonder Woman, which they had moved from June to August, is now being pushed to October. So,
although I will give Cinemark full marks. Which, first of all, I didn't even realize they were actually located, like headquartered internationally in Plano. So that's kind of cool. But they're apparently, of the big three chains, they're the only ones that are actually have the financial wherewithal to survive like the next 2 years. Like everybody fully expects AMC to go out of business.
Right.
Like this has killed AMC. They're toast. But the Forbes is like, Cinemark has been uniquely positioned to survive this. They've been the most conservative. They've stockpiled their cash. So apparently, hey, there's some good businessmen in Texas. Who knew? But they are doing a promotion that tickets, because they're going to reopen June 19th.
Right.
And tickets are going to be $5, which is fantastic because, I mean, come on, tickets have been getting freaking out of control for years now. Like you want to go see a 3D IMAX movie, and you might as well just go watch the opera because it's going to cost about the same. So that's good. And then they've strongly hinted that the concessions will all be greatly reduced as well. And I think they need, it's just getting too damn expensive to go to the movies. Hell. And Marcus, you're a single guy. Alex, you're a single guy. It's expensive for you. It's doubly expensive for me because I'm going with my wife. And then imagine if you got a family of 4. You're dropping $150 to go see a movie.
Yeah,
that ain't cheap.
Right. We also want to explain for Alex and I to the dates that we have. If we take you to a press screening, it's not that we're not willing to spend money on you, but it is a lot cheaper. And the fact that you get to see the movie early, that should impress you. Besides our rugged good looks.
It's not that we don't want to spend.
We can skip hundreds of people in line to go to the front and get in a reserved seat. So
it's not that we don't want to spend money on you. It's just why if I don't have to.
Right. I took my nephew and his parents to a Saturday screening years ago, and Wynn picked him up, and we actually let him talk to the reps and give his review of the movie. I think it was the latest Ice Age movie, if I'm correct. And then we all went out and got lunch, and we were commenting that the fact that we went and got lunch somewhere was still cheaper than trying to buy popcorn, movie tickets, and all that just to see that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, I got to look like the cool uncle, like, yeah, man, I'm going to get you in to see this movie early, and you get to brag to all your friends on the playground. Yeah, I saw it 2 weeks early because I know somebody.
He's got people.
Exactly. But yeah, you're right. It's ridiculously expensive. I looked at the price tag for all the tickets that I bought for our staff screening of The Rise of Skywalker compared to what we spent money on for The Force Awakens years ago. And it had literally gone up like 30% in ticket prices. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
And that's way outpacing inflation.
Right. I don't
sure as hell way outpacing my wages, I'll tell you that.
Well,
what else?
I feel bad for AMC if this thing kills your business, but at the same time, that's a question that you have to ask how you got to this point.
I'm actually kind of rooting for it, and I'll tell you why. Because it'll be one less piece of the American cinematic experience that's owned by China.
Ah, very true.
This is It's starting to look more and more like Demolition Man again, where they have the franchise wars and Taco Bell took over all the restaurants. All the theaters are going to be Cinemark.
We'd like to take you to Taco Bell. Ooh, Taco Bell.
Here's my thing about Cinemark. Our outlet has always had a great relationship with Cinemark. I couldn't thank them enough for all that they have helped us with, being able to do promotional events for Star Wars. Letting us. When we did for the documentary about Star Wars, that we are still working on and adding more to, which will end up being a series now. But when we did our very first shot and went to go see the teaser trailer, it did not take us long to get permission to just like 2 days, before Thanksgiving, to say we want to come do this. We're going to pay for tickets, and then walk out right after we see the trailer and film. And they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, no problem." And the manager was like, "Cool, you just can't take a camera into the theater." And we're like, "Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're just going in, watching the trailer, and walking right out with the other 10 people behind us." That did the same thing. But the fact that they go out to help people.
Wasn't that movie like Divergent or something like that?
No, it was it was one of the Mockingjay movies. Whatever.
All right, same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
Post-apocalyptic teen drama bullshit. Yeah.
Right. And we've just always had a better experience with Cinemark. So, I mean, again, we're giving them a little free press, a shout out here, and just saying that working with them is a pleasure. And what they have been able to do with their theaters, with remodeling and stuff. I mean, Cinemark Legacy in Plano has always kind of been our official theater, our Star Wars theater. We've had great times there, and
it's a really nice theater. They do a good job.
Yeah.
But it's just the reason why I bring up the Chinese aspect of it is, if you've ever wondered where Richard Gere has been in like the last 15 years, it's because China owns most of our cinematic experience. They own most of our movie theaters. They own most of our movie studios. And Richard Gere has been a very, very vocal opponent of Chinese's record on human rights. Right. So because he won't shut his mouth and play nice with the Chinese, he hasn't been cast in major movies in like 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
He sure did a good job being out of mind, though. I don't mind saying that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's picked his roles wisely. I mean, the movies that I've seen over the last few years have been very good, but that's the price you pay. But Brendan, I don't disagree with you. I get business, I get everything, but yeah, we need more American-backed movie theaters. Now, here's the question I want to ask. With everything that we're doing here, and this also leads into why AMC might also be able to falter. When studios had to figure out how to release the movies that were coming out in the spring, they did come up with this idea that we're going to put them early on demand. You can rent the movie for $20. It's still cheaper than buying 4 tickets, but they're going to recoup their money. It's not that good if you're one person trying to watch a movie, but whatever. And
it
then
balances out for them. They'll lose some on some people, gain some on others, yada yada.
Right. But Universal was the first studio to come out and say that their new model was they were going to release the movie in theaters and on demand at the same time, trying to make their money right off the bat. And AMC basically said that they wouldn't be releasing any Universal movies whatsoever, which includes the Fast and Furious movies and their spin-offs. And then it got into a whole lawsuit deal, and I'm thinking, AMC, you are already billions of dollars in debt.
Yeah, you can't be tossing business away.
Right. Not a very good business model. But if that's your stance, I mean, I get it if it's a thing that distributes white supremacy movies or whatever, okay? But again, you also allowed someone to buy out your theater and do a few press screenings of the Trump Doctrine independent movie about the firefighter who had a prophecy that Donald Trump was going to become president and save the nation. We got invited to a screening of that, which we politely declined and was like, no. Although we probably should have gone, a crew of us, just to watch it as Mystery Science Theater 3000 sat down at the bottom. What? This is not a riff track movie? Anyway.
I like Left Behind.
Yeah.
Uh,
Still the worst movie we ever had to sit through, but we did it because we're professionals. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just AMC. If that's the attitude you're going to take, I get where the studios are coming from. I do. All right. And it's nice that they're able to survive a little bit by being able to release certain movies that way.
See, now what AMC should have done is they should have pivoted and said, okay, we understand you can get this at home, and we understand everything's a little kind of crazy right now, but we'd still like you to come to the theaters. So with every purchase of 2 tickets, we'll give you a free large popcorn.
Right.
Because popcorn, let's be perfectly honest, popcorn costs them nothing, okay?
Yeah.
A packet of popcorn, with the amount of popcorn they buy, a single packet of popcorn that they're going to sell for like $12 for a large, probably cost them 30 cents, if that.
Right.
So it costs them nothing. So get them in the theaters. Just say, hey, we understand you have these options to watch at home. We'd still like you to come out to the theater. We have these big, beautiful screens. We have the amazing surround sound. So in order to entice you out, we're willing to give you, with every purchase of 2 tickets, a free large popcorn.
Right.
Boom, done. Now, people are going to be like, free is my favorite price. I like free shit. Also, people really do like going to the movies. It is a quintessential part of the American experience.
And that's what I'm getting at, is it's fine that we have multiple streaming channels, that we are a binge watch culture now. There are things that I think are meant to be done that way. And as Brendan and I were talking about last night at the pub, we are looking more forward to the series, the Star Wars series that they're going to put on Disney Plus, compared to seeing another Star Wars movie in the theater. But that doesn't take away from the iconic experience that we have going to see a movie. Look, when we did our staff screening of The Rise of Skywalker, and in fact, every time that we have done a staff screening for the last 3 movies, I've enjoyed being able to do that more than seeing the movie itself in the theater. Okay? We've had fun with it. It's great to get out, the pictures, everything about it. Cinemark letting us do our thing. I like the fact that I apologize, I forget his name. I like the fact that every time we're there, the same Plano police officer who's a nerd, just like us, is always moonlighting. And I tell him, you just say the word, and there'll be a disturbance in the theater, and you can hang out for like an hour. But though you have to have those experiences, that's what makes a movie theater great. And I'll give you one more. You take away theaters and have in being able to have that fun, even if it's a movie theater that's showing a classic movie at midnight. Brendan and I can tell you that one of the best experiences that we ever had was with our buddy Adam, and we went to go see Jaws at midnight at the Inwood Theater. It was the first time they ever put the movie on the big screen since it had been released. Original 35 millimeter print. It was during the summer, so all the school kids were out, and about 2/3 of that audience had never seen the movie before. They didn't know what they were in for. Somebody had an inflatable shark that was being passed around the audience because it's in that couch theater.
Yeah, they had it inflated with kind of like a little bit of helium. It wasn't completely like floating around helium, but it was just
right. But they had
airborne for a little while.
Right. We met a guy in line. I mean, the line was like out the door. We met a guy who was just like us, so we just grabbed one of the big couches, and we all did the exact same thing. We all had a flask of some kind of whiskey.
And meanwhile, and then when they're having the scene on the Orca where they're singing "Show Me the Way to Go Home," all the kids are looking around going, "What the hell is this song?" And meanwhile, there's 3 old drunk guys singing right along with it.
I know the song, but we sat in front of high school girls and behind some teenagers that had never seen the movie, and they were screaming throughout the entire film. You don't get that experience watching it at home. You have to go out and enjoy it in that kind of social setting. There's going to be movies that are meant to be seen on the big screen. It doesn't matter if it's an iconic film or just a fun film that you want to see on the big screen. We've seen plenty that they're not great films. They're just fun films. That's really all it is. But
Well,
whether it's a drive-in theater, a big movie theater, whatever, sometimes you just have to watch the movie on a big screen
Which,
with a crowd.
by the way, I think we should do that as a show, as a cast event. Is go down to the drive-in in Ennis to watch something together.
Right. Well,
Because
or the
we
one
do
in
have.
Louisville, but yeah.
Oh, there's one in Louisville now too.
Yeah, I believe it's Louisville. I got to
Okay.
ask Julie. I have not been to it. She did a press screening there for a horror movie and got really cold. So we'll ask Julie next time that she's on the
Fair
show.
how
enough.
did she get the gig?
Do what, Alex?
How did she get that gig?
She's a huge horror nut.
Hey, we split the horror movies up pretty good. Anyway, Alex, you were saying, I know everybody was talking about movie theaters and seeing movies on the big screen.
Well, you kind of touched on what I was going to be saying, which, I think that it's it's fun to go see these movies that we remember from our childhood, and maybe movies that we didn't get to see originally that we'd like to see as it was originally shown. So these landmark theaters like the Inwood or the Texas Theater are really good about showing lots of different kinds of cult classics.
Right.
And there's so many of them that appeal to so many different types of moviegoers. But then you have the ones that are just really good, popular movies that a lot of people want to see. There's this trend of watching movies at home streaming has been happening anyway. I just think maybe it's just more accelerated because of what's happened recently.
Right.
I think that theaters will continue to get smaller. If they start to build new theaters, they won't be as big. They'll continue to get smaller, which is funny because when theaters were first built, they had just maybe 2 big theaters and that was it. And then we started getting these huge, massive theaters with 18 screens and whatnot. Maybe it's going to come back to the way it used to be a little bit before, where we have fewer screens and fewer seats, blah blah blah. But I think it's going to become just more of a novelty, where it's a fun experience, but it's not going to necessarily be the norm like it used to be. The norm will be to watch them streaming. Of course, if they're going to charge $20 to watch the movie at home, for somebody like you or me, it's one person, that's a total ripoff.
No.
I watched a movie with a friend. It was a date, if you will, of The King of Staten Island, and she paid $20 for us to watch that. I couldn't. It was an average movie in my opinion,
Right.
and she paid $20 for us to sit and watch that movie.
Right.
So that kind of thing it's only going to work for so long, I think, because people want to save money and they want to get their money's worth. So
right.
I think one thing that might be an interesting idea, because at a lot of theaters, they show other things besides movies. We went to a thing at the Cinemark where we got to see Monty Python, their final show and whatnot.
Right. They live streamed it. Right.
More live shows, maybe even have like sporting games, since people are going to be reluctant to go to the stadiums anyway. Why not show them at the big theaters and charge a couple of bucks to go watch it on a huge theater screen?
Well, they've been doing that with the opera too, where they'll live stream like the New York Opera, and you get to see it like anywhere in the country. Or it doesn't replace the live experience, but at the same time, being able to see it that way. In doing research and talking about, like the original Star Wars movie that came out in '77. For those that live in Dallas, which is where we're all located at, the big theater was the General Cinema Theater. The North Park 1 theater, North Park 1 and 2. And that thing, I don't remember ever seeing a movie there. But from what I understand, it sat 1,200 people. You had a balcony, and the experience of that many people seeing an iconic movie, especially when they put the THX sound system in for Return of the Jedi, there's just certain movies that you have to see on the big screen. Or I was talking with my 89-year-old Irish grandmother this week, who has basically been isolated at the assisted living, hasn't been able to see family. But she's like, one of the things that gets us through is me and all the old folks have been watching all these old movies that, you know, we grew up with or that we did dates with our spouses with. And she's like, but seeing Lawrence of Arabia on a TV, even if it's a flat screen, it's not the same experience I had going to the theater with your grandfather. Okay. And I'm like, exactly. So I understand that there has to be an adjustment. I understand that life is going to change, but we will get through this. We're not shutting down the entire movie industry because we had to be off for a few months. It does reshape the landscape. But if you're telling me that I can't go to a movie theater to see a screening, and I love the press screenings when they have people that got free passes and we're seeing it with press, and
Right.
Alex and I generally do, and everybody else, you know, Trinity Hall, our Irish pub that's next to the Angelica Theater, that's our press bar. We go in and talk movies. You know, I miss that experience because not that it's not fun doing it on a live on a video podcast. It's just more fun doing it over a beer in person. Okay, but so I don't know what the perfect answer is, but I think whatever the business model they come up with, be it Cinemark or another chain or whatever, you have to figure out a way to have people still come through the doors. Okay, and maybe at least because what we do as an outlet that we cover so many film festivals, maybe it's opening the doors to more and more stuff like that. Shared experiences for independent filmmakers to see their stuff on the big screen via, you know, disc. I love the fact that we get to go and enjoy certain movies that may only do a film festival circuit. They may never get the distribution or whatever, but we had a chance to be able to watch it and enjoy those movies. But then again, there's sometimes too that we sit through a movie at a film festival. We're like, okay, is this movie done so we can go get a beer? Which is what Brendan and I did one time with that Tom Hardy. You remember that Tom Hardy movie where he's just the entire movie is him in a car driving, talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like,
Actually, confessions.
yeah. It was
It's
an
like, you
interesting
know,
movie, but we're like, okay, look.
but that movie was about 30 minutes too long. Like,
You sound like Roger Ebert now. Yeah.
oh Jesus! I mean,
yeah, I think we had to have one more pint after that movie to get
Oh.
through.
Here, the reason why I like the film festivals, and I think it's been true for a long time, is that these indie movies that are made on a low budget and don't have the ability to get expensive producers involved, if
Right.
they go to one of these festivals and you get good word of mouth, and then it goes on to another festival and another, it can eventually get picked up by a big studio, and then
Right.
then it makes money. I mean, that was the big story of what happened with The Clerks, and that gives
Right.
these small movies hope that could happen if you just have the right movie that gets the right audience and you get good word of mouth. So I think
Well,
one thing I want to add though real quick, I was talking about, the fact that this movie 7500 was made on such a low budget. I think with the studios losing money, actors are going to have to take less money, which I think a lot of them will be willing to do that. But these movies, because they're going to be made on lower budgets, are going to have to focus more on character-driven stories as opposed to big box office
Right.
production. There will still be action movies, but they'll be more old school. It won't be relying as much on big visual effects, which I think could be a good trend.
right. No, I think that's a good point.
I'm all for the return of 80s action movies.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. Best buddy cop film of the 80s, Tango and Cash. Maybe not, but it's still a fun movie to watch. If nothing else, Kurt Russell trying to escape in drag. Anyway, all I'm saying is, Hollywood theaters have always adjusted and started new trends outside, whether it's been film festivals or whatever. I recently rewatched the Inside the Actor Studio episode with Robert Redford and him talking about Sundance and what they wanted from it and how it really became this, big Hollywood thing now. But part of what he gets at is you have to have that shared experience where agents media, everybody is coming to see these films. It's one thing for like us as press to watch movies as screeners before we're interviewing people on the red carpet, but the experience is not. Sometimes those movies are better to see on the big screen with the cast in the audience, but to be able to have those events where you are getting to interview filmmakers, and it's not just big name stars, but it's independent filmmakers that may not have a chance to really get good press on something, or maybe they don't do anything but one film. If you take those experiences away, then what's the point? I get trying to do virtual film festivals and trying to share and talk and all that. Yes, let's do that. Let's talk about films and do what we do. But that shouldn't be that shouldn't be the end all. That shouldn't be like, okay, well, we can't do anything anymore because there's a pandemic, so this is the way we have to do it. No, we should fight to get those same experiences back. That's all I'm trying to say. I want to be able to have interviews in person. I want to be able to do the roundtables. I want to be able to mingle in the festival lounge and, have great conversations with filmmakers and stuff like that you're just not going to get on Zoom. This is a great medium for what we do, but it's always better in person. It's always better to be at an event. And here's another thing. Brendan doesn't get to do a whole lot because of his schedule. But 2 years ago, when you joined me on the red carpet and helped interview Landis and Bruce McGill for the 40th anniversary of Animal House, and then we all did watch the movie, shared experience, had the after party. You can't do that in a virtual world and have the same experience. And we had so much fun that night. And
you can't get a selfie with John Landis if you're on Zoom.
Right. Exactly. You can't.
Which I did.
Right. I just don't think you're going to get the same reaction when we asked Bruce McGill what he thought his character D-Day, what really happened to him. Because at the end of the film, they say whereabouts
unknown. Yeah.
Right. And his answer was, well, you guys remember I was in this show called MacGyver and I played a pilot called Mac. And we were like, wow, that really is a good theory. D-Day became Mac in MacGyver.
I personally wanted to know if he could still do the neck trick.
True. But
he's like, he actually said, yes, I can, but my wife hates it.
Hello there, fellow nerds. I'm Marcus Blake, the editor and producer of That Nerd Show, and we need your help. That's right, we need your support. Like any news outlet, we rely on advertising and donations to keep the lights on. To be the greatest show in this universe, we need funding, and that's where you come in. Like most artists out there, we actually have a Patreon account, and we're asking for donations. But we're not just asking for you to give us money. We actually have stuff that we're going to be giving away if you donate. So we'll be uploading more and more videos to our Patreon account from YouTube, from our daily news to interviews with celebrities to gaming videos and all of our other individual shows that we are doing here in 2020. But to keep us going, we need a little bit of funding. And again, that's where you come in. So it can be as little as $1. $1 makes all the difference in the world. And you can do anywhere from $1 to $3 to $5, all the way up to $500. And we're going to be giving stuff away for your donations. So you can get some Nerd Power wristbands or any other wristbands from our series of wristbands that we're creating for nerds. You can get cool retro gaming t-shirts from our Nerd Swag shop if you make a donation of $20 or more. You can even get advertising on our website or within our videos if you make a purchase or donate $50 or more dollars. We have different tiers, like most artists. Want that new video game that's coming out this year? You want to be playing the same video game we are as we're reviewing it? Hey, you can do that with a $100 donation. Are you looking to get a new console before the year is out? Hey, $500 and you can get an Xbox One, a PlayStation 4, or even a Nintendo Switch. It just takes a little bit to help us. As little as $1
per video that we do. And we're going to have a variety of videos that you can help support. So if you like our content, if you like everything that we do as nerds, from honest conversations about pop culture to great celebrity interviews to wacky and fun gaming videos, then help support us on our Patreon account. You can check us out at patreon.com/thatnerdshow. You can check us out at patreon.com/that. Take 3. Go to patreon.com/thatnerdshow and make your donation today. Even if it's just $1. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, and stay nerdy.
All I'm saying is yes, it will be different. We all know that. That's just the reality. Maybe theaters, like Alex said, they do get smaller. Maybe there is more spacing. I don't know. But we still have to have those shared experiences of being able to go out. But what I was actually leading up to is, in adjusting how we do things, dinner and a show, you had movies like the Studio Movie Grill and the Draft House, which started serving food, which was a great idea. It really was, except for the waiters running back and forth in the middle of the screen. It was something that adjusted and added a new dimension to the movie-going experience. But what is next? How do you still get those same experiences with a movie theater, with going to see a movie in the world that we live in now? And that is the big question. I don't personally have all the answers, but let me ask this question. Do you think that there will be a rise in drive-in movie theaters? Do you think this is the right opportunity for those to come back? Not just a special type of theater, but a chance for those kind of theaters, because we've seen a lot of events now happening.
Not to a huge degree, but because I think this will subside eventually. This outbreak will I don't think it'll ever go completely away, but I think it will subside a bit. And once that happens, Americans are very kind of stuck in who we are and what we do.
Right.
So I think we'll go somewhat back to normal patterns. And when that happens, I think that'll fall off. Now, there is going to be also a subset of the population that is going to very much take, let's say, a Japanese view on things where you wear masks in public all the time. And to those people, that might be a viable alternative. And I think you might see more. We have 2 drive-ins in the Metroplex right now. Maybe we have total of 6. But I don't think you're going to see it where, I think it'll go to where you could probably get to one in under an hour rather having to drive 2 or 3 hours. Because if I were to go to one, it's an hour probably to Louisville with traffic. It's 2 hours to Ennis. So I could see a small uptick, and maybe it becomes more commonplace again. But I don't think you'll ever see it to the point where we had it where you can literally throw a rock in America and hit a movie theater.
True.
But I think
Alex, what do you think?
Is going to continue to be the thing. I think that's going to continue to be the trend and over time, as more and more, as we have more and more services that provide it, that's going to cause the price to go down for competition reasons. These $20 fees are going to have to go down. That obviously, but I see that being the trend that's going to continue, at least for now.
Right.
For those reasons. Basically.
One thing that I think we can totally take advantage of, because I saw the ad pop up on Google, so it reminded me of this, but the big inflatable movie screens where you do outside screenings. And of course, Alex and I at the Oak Cliff Film Festival a few years ago got to watch Flight of the Navigator outside. It was very hot and we kept running for ice cream or whatever, but they did one of those inflatable screens in the middle of Bishop Arts, and people sat outside in their own chairs.
I think a lot of people are going to start doing events like those. Like Alamo Draft House every summer on Lake Travis does an event where they show Jaws on the lake, and
Yes.
you're sitting, you're in tubes floating around in the lake watching Jaws, drinking beers, and then they have divers come and grab at your feet during certain points of the moment of the movie.
Right.
Who doesn't want to go to that? Like
I know.
I've wanted to go to that since I found out about it. I haven't had the chance yet, but I'm like,
I know.
ever since I found out about it, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's the best movie experience I've ever heard of.
I know.
Because if you're going to be outside watching a movie in Texas, what better place to do it than floating on a lake? And, you know, and then,
Watching a shark movie.
yeah, it's fantastic. It's like,
I mean,
can we
it's
do
like-
Piranha 3D next?
I mean, that's almost like as good as
Do River
I know
Wild.
I know there's a tornado warning and a lot of wind, but yes, let's go to an outside theater and watch the movie Twister.
I mean, let's do Deep Blue Sea next. Because I love that movie for one reason and one reason only, because right in the middle of Sam Jackson giving the great big hero speech that's the speech and we're going to rally, and it's
Right.
the main trope of all these movies, right? All of a sudden the shirt comes up through the hole and just yeets them right out of the friggin' scene, and you're like, did that just fucking happen? That was awesome.
I agree.
They could only do that. They could only do that with Samuel L. Jackson. There's no other actor.
Again, I mean, getting back to our point, having more outside experiences where you can properly social distance, deal with it and stuff. Now, it does get a lot harder to do things like that, when it's 100 degrees outside in Texas. I get that, or other states. But, why couldn't you set up an inflatable screen to watch the movie Hoosiers or some great basketball movie on a basketball court, like in a stadium or something along those lines? Or,
Plaza, yeah.
and one of the things that I was thinking of, okay, the new ballpark for the Rangers, Global Life Park, has been empty. They're losing lots of money and going further into debt trying to get that $1 billion stadium. Or Wrigley Field, good example, or Fenway. Pick an iconic movie that has something to do with that stadium.
Hell, put all the classic baseball movies on and should put them right onto the Green Monster.
Yes.
You've already got the wall right there. I mean, just use it. So, and you could see it from just about anywhere except for the left field corner or the basically left field, center field,
Right.
and the monster
Whether-
seats. So
Whether
you can
like
use most of the
Farrelly
field.
Brothers movie with Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore about the Red Sox, which I'm
Fever Pitch.
Yeah. Again, whether you like the movie or not, being able to have that experience with that movie at Fenway would be cool. Or for me, Rookie of the Year, where the kid can throw a fastball and all the scenes at Wrigley Field. I'm not saying it's a great movie. I'm not. But I am an extra in that movie with 10,000 other fans.
Wow.
Or how about The Rookie with Dennis Quaid? Why can't that be a great, movie being shown at the old ballpark? Because I was actually there the night that they filmed his scenes when I was working at the ballpark. So it's you.
Yeah, but nobody goes. See, here's the thing: the Rookie was on the Tampa Bay Rays, right? So nobody goes to Tampa Bay Stadium for the actual baseball games. I doubt they're going to go for a movie.
No, that's why you have to show it at Texas, because he was a Texas guy. But my point is, there's so many different ways to have those experiences with great movies outside or with inflatable screens and stuff like that. There's not, I've seen movie theaters like Cinemark being able to pull that off. If you can't properly social distance or whatever, find a way to be able to do something on the property you own to be able to have something along those lines. But we, as Brendan pointed out, that's part of our culture. We want to go see movies on the big screen. We want to have great experiences doing that. It's just not as fun sitting at home. It's okay to see certain movies like, oh, I didn't get a chance to see this. I'll watch it home, late at night. Allison Costa texted me last night, and unfortunately, I didn't even know this happened. But Artemis Fowl, the Disney movie that was supposed to be released last year, has Judi Dench in it. It's based off the young adult books. Then they were going to re-release it in May, and it never happened. So they just threw it up on Disney Plus this weekend. And big surprise, no press release. It just popped up, and those who were waiting to see the movie, I had a few people request to go see the press screening, and I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this, but sure. But she told me it's like, yes, we were going to go to the theater to see it, but to see it as a family with kids, that's our Friday night, Friday movie night, that was fun. But I asked her, would it have been more fun at the movie theater? And she was like, yes, but this definitely helps, the price tag when you have 6 kids who are going to the movie theater to watch a movie. So it's a catch-22. Now, the last question I want to ask before we close this out, because like I said, this is about how Hollywood should adjust, and I think we've given a lot of great ideas. Do we, with everything that's going on, do you see a decline in movie theaters that serve food, like the Draft House and the Studio Movie Grill? Do you think that business model doesn't come back like it used to be? And I'll start with you, Alex.
One thing I think might not be a bad idea is if they maybe replaced what they have with the snack bars, or maybe even the bars, because not a lot of these places have bars, maybe replace them with like a stand for an actual restaurant inside the theater. If people feel like they can get food from an actual theater, from an actual restaurant inside the theater, maybe they're more willing to pay for it, perhaps. But because I think with people trying to save money, there's going to be more of a desire for people to try and sneak in food and drinks, and the theaters are supposedly strict about that or whatnot. So they could either just lift those restraints and allow people to do it for a certain amount of time, or they could go into partnership with actual restaurants. That could even help them make money and keep these theaters alive if it's like a part restaurant, a restaurant that people know, and part theater. So,
right.
Like leasing out space within the theater to a restaurant chain.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Honestly, I actually think, for me, I think the whole industry is going in the opposite direction, because Cinemark, AMC, all these big, I forget what the other big one, because they're not in Texas, is, but they're all adding restaurants because they're losing businesses to the Alamo Draft Houses and Studio Movie Grills and movie eateries of the world. So I think that's still here to stay. People are still going to go out to eat food. People are still going to go to movies. I think the trend is going the other direction. I think you'll see more restaurants or more food options in theaters. Cinemark has 2 locations in Plano, one on 75, one on 380. Just a little further down 380 at the Frisco Prosper McKinney border, they just put in Cinemark Cut, which is their restaurant version. So, in an area where they literally already had 2 movie theaters that overlap their neighborhoods, they put in a third with a restaurant. So I think it's going to go the other way. I think you're going to see more and more of it.
Well, I don't think you're ever going to get away from the idea of a dinner and a show. That idea has been ingrained as part of our entertainment since, post World War II. Well, even before then, to a point. But it's always been about money, and the economics of it is, how much money are we really shelling out to be able to do that? Because, I mean, it's not, you get food and you take a family of 4, it's not hard to drop $100 in a night to be able to get tickets and food and stuff. But I think it's about how you approach it. And like Alex was saying, about how you partner it up. I mean, being able to have like an outside inflatable movie screen, bring your own lawn chair type of deal, but food trucks all around, that kind of thing that you partner with, or just hiring, a caterer that's, bring out a big smoker and they're doing stuff. We were talking to our friend Scott, who is now the general manager at Liberty Burger in Dallas, which, by the way, we wanted to give them a shout out. If you're looking for a great burger, go see our buddy Scott Ferris over at Liberty Burger in the Lakewood area here in Dallas. But my point is, chefs or caterers or cooks who kind of have their little mobile stations, if they don't have a full food truck, they kind of bring out and they grill, and you're buying stuff that way. The point is, you're getting a combination of your food and your entertainment all right there. So I agree with Brendan that, we're not going to ever completely get away from the trend, but it's about how you adjust to the economics when people aren't working and they can't afford to do that. And there's only so much unemployment and disaster relief, because we're still dealing with a world where people may not get to go back to work to the jobs they once had, because the industries have changed so drastically over a few months. And it's what is out there now. If you were in an industry where you couldn't work from home, or companies are cutting back because they haven't brought in it's just, there's a combination of things that go into it. So, but again, it's a curious question to how they should adjust. And I think the biggest issue is, whatever you do, you have to get back to making movies again. We want to be entertained. Streaming is fine, and it got us all through the last few months, but we still want to go out and have those shared experiences at a movie theater in whatever way that we can. So before we do this, any final thoughts, starting with you, Alex, about how Hollywood can adjust to a pandemic that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I think of anything else to add. I feel like we've kind of covered everything. If there's one other thing I would point out, it would be that I think some of this, what we're seeing with the trend and what we're talking about, shared experiences with seeing movies, I think some of that is generational. I think these younger generations maybe aren't going to the movies as much, and so maybe that's why they're more prone to watching at home. So if people from our generation aren't having kids and aren't taking our kids to theaters to have that experience, they're not having it, and so then they don't really have a desire to go do it. So,
right.
But the only thing I would add doesn't necessarily have to do with this, but actors need to stop being pretentious with us. Don't take us for granted. We are your audience, and we are the reason why you get to make money, and we appreciate what you do, but do what you do is what I would say. Because, this country is getting more and more divided as time goes on, or so it seems. I'd love to see that turn. I really would.
Harrison Ford made a good point one time when he was on Inside the Actor Studio. And again, I've been watching a lot of those old episodes, that while he is personally a very private person, when he is contracted to do a movie, it is his job to convey all that he is within that role for that movie to the audience and the director. He is making the choice in contracting out to give a piece of himself to the audience through his role. And he acknowledges that. But his personal life can remain private, and the world doesn't need to know that. So I think that's great advice from, Han Solo and Indiana Jones there. And I agree with you, Alex. So any final thoughts, Brendan?
I just think the industry itself needs to reevaluate, the prices they were charging, like Cinemark's doing. They need to look at other ways. Maybe I think a very good night would be to take an off night, maybe Sunday afternoon, and do a family day and say, if you have 2 adults plus children, will give you 30% off your complete ticket purchase, to bring families in, do family packages for hot dogs and sodas and popcorn and knockoff percentages to get families into the door, because families aren't going to go because the price tag is so high. I just think they really need to recognize what's going on in the country and adjust to it.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, they pay marketing people a ton of money to get people in the door, and marketing's a science, and it's a well-developed science that has a history going back to the 1940s. So marketers know what they're doing. Just listen to them and implement it. And, people are going to want to pay less. They're going to want better deals.
Hey.
So give them to them.
A good night to get people to the movie theater, because the ballpark does it here in Dallas once a month. Dollar hot dog night. I love going on Dollar hot dog night. Get some cheap bleacher tickets, get a good group together, and you literally just walk up. Here's a $50 bill. We need 50 hot dogs, please.
My favorite is I like what the Rangers do with the all-you-can-eat ticket. So so it's $50, right? And you get a decent seat. It's in the second level of the right field stands. You get to see you get a beautiful view of the whole game. You're not that far away, and you get built-in all-you-can-eat nachos, hot dogs, hamburgers, chicken sandwiches, and they have all the fixings you could ever want. And I think they have some other, like some small dessert thing too. And then they have another appetizer other than nachos. And then you get all you can drink sodas. They don't do all you can drink beer, obviously. They're not crazy, but, but I was thinking, I was adding it up, like, because I hadn't eaten all day the day I went, and I had to chow on some hot dogs and some burgers and some nachos, and I'm adding it all up. I'm like, yeah, I'd have spent like $70, $80 easy. So
right.
I was like, I love this ticket. This is fantastic.
I know, right? Well, another good point.
So maybe do a $25 ticket for a single person, and have hot dogs and nachos out, and you can get all you can eat hot dogs and nachos and all you can drink soda.
Well, I like the idea of a family now. I mean, for the people that have kids, going in an afternoon, being able to get stuff, because they're nothing against what they did with the latest Trolls movie, but being able to take kids and have that experience and get out of a house, especially when you've been isolated all day, all night with kids.
And let's be honest,
a wife.
And I think this is why movie theaters that can sell booze is so popular now, because movie theater is the one place it's socially acceptable for you to bring children and drink alcohol.
What about the bowling alley?
Well, bowling alleys too, but and hey, at some places you can have a bowling alley and a movie theater at the same place. So
I'd go for that. Play games and watch a movie. I'd do that. Yeah.
There you go. That's how you rescue the movie industry. Bowling alley / movie theater. Big Lebowski
just places like Dave & Buster's and this new Andretti's Speedway in the Colony, which I really want to go to. Like, there's ridiculous. It's like Dave & Buster's with indoor go-karts.
Right.
I so want to go to that. But anyway, you throw a movie theater attached to one of those. Oh my God. That's all day. You didn't buy it. You want to make money. I mean, start with a movie and then do go-karting all day.
I think the point is, you just can't expect people just to be home all the time. We have to get out. We have to socialize. I mean, the first time I heard the pub was opening back up, I was there at open. I was like, yes, I've got to get out and I need to socialize with people. But that's, what movie theaters are all about. So anyway, it will be a big adjustment, but don't give up. Movie theaters, even if AMC goes under or whatever. Again, we're proud of Cinemark, the great relationship that we have with them. We look forward to doing it. In fact, I hope everything's back to normal, because I really want to do a Top Gun red carpet with, of course, karaoke when the new movie comes out this Christmas. You sold me and got me excited about the new Top Gun movie. Full-fledged. I'm like, I will get my flight uniform.
By the way, did you see the joke trailer somebody did for Top Gun? they had the bit where Ed Harris is in. Here you are, still a captain. Why is that? And they switch to the picture of the Navy pilot drawing the sky penis. And then they come back and Tom Cruise has got that little shit-eating grin on his face that just barely cracks a grin. And he goes, "One of life's great mysteries, sir." It was so well done. I was dying. It was fantastic.
I remember that one. Well, and it's funny to talk about Top Gun. We were expecting to actually have our press screening like literally this week, and it got pushed back. And I made a comment about it because I found a Top Gun T-shirt at Walmart for $5, and I'm like, at $1 for the aviator shades at Dollar Tree. I'm like, let's do this. I can totally rock this. And a friend of mine kept looking up uniforms. If she's listening, like we should totally have done this back in the day during Halloween. I'm like, we should have. But that doesn't mean I can't throw a red carpet event when the movie comes out. We'd have a red carpet. Top Gun on the red carpet. There will be singing. Still one of the greatest 80s soundtracks ever. And Top Gun wouldn't be Top Gun unless you had some homoerotic shirtless volleyball scene, which apparently they have in the new movie.
Of course they do.
Anyway. Well, it feels weird that, there's not really any summer blockbusters. Everything is going to get pushed back. But as America is opening up, we here encourage people, figure out a way to do an event. Let's do inflatable screens. Let's do outside screenings, classic movies, whatever. Cinemark, we can't wait as you're opening up next week. Even if it's a movie that we have seen, that's awesome.
I'm going.
Yeah, that's awesome what you are doing.
I'm going the day they open. I don't care what's on. I just want to go see I haven't seen a damn movie in 6 months. I want to go see a movie.
Exactly.
Hey, maybe they should do it like you got Campese's over there across from the Angelica practically. How about you do a 30th anniversary screening of Goodfellas and have Campese's Pizza?
Oh my God.
That's a great idea.
That is. I'm totally convinced Campese's is run by the mob, but that's just my theory.
Perfect.
I don't have to. I don't care if I have to bathe in sanitizer and wear, the Naked Gun full body condom. I'm going to see a movie next week.
I had forgotten about that scene. You're welcome. Awesome. Yeah. All right, everybody. We're going to close this out. We'd love to hear your thoughts about how Hollywood can adjust. Maybe you have enjoyed our ideas, things that we have suggested. But we can still salvage this summer. We can still find ways to go to the movies, have great events. It doesn't have to be a total loss. The pandemic is not going to kill us. It's not going to ruin our society.
I want to ask one quick question real quick.
Sure.
How is giving Elmer Fudd a scythe any better than him having a rifle? So now he chops off Daffy Duck's head instead of just shooting him? Because that's so much less traumatic to the kiddos. Right.
And this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. God. Hey, quit ruining cartoons, America. Yeah, enough of that. Or we're just all going to be pissed off and have to go drink. All right, everybody. We're going to close this out. I want to thank Alex and Brendan for joining us today. Sorry.
Yeah, that other guy you've known for 13 years.
Yeah. Sorry for being a little late. Technical difficulties. Skynet and Microsoft have teamed up together. But here we
Microsoft is just going to become Skynet.
All right. We'll be back next week on Saturday, hopefully on time. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
So long.